Welcome to the REI Agent, a holistic approach to life through real estate. I'm Matthias, an agent and investor.
And I'm Erica, a licensed therapist.
Join us as we interview guests that also strive to live bold and fulfilled lives through business and real estate investing.
Tune in every week for interviews with real estate agents and investors.
Ready to level up?
Let's do it.
Welcome back to the REI Agent. Today we have a really great guest, Joshua Smith. He is the host of the Get Shit Done podcast, GSD Mode, Get Shit Done Mode podcast. He's a guy that I listened to before, and he's motivating. He definitely has really good clarity, good insights. He is in the Phoenix market and is seeing, pockets of that market already being in a real estate crash. And he, has thoughts and opinions about what may happen with the market, even though, or he says, preparing for the worst while, hoping for the best. And he has some insights as to what he thinks could happen throughout the country, or certainly in different markets, that especially the ones that saw, really high spikes and purchases and institutional investors, et cetera. So interesting, definitely something if you are curious about that kind of thing, it's a good one to listen to. What struck me about him was he seems to have a really good ability of seeing things from a very high level, looking at things from the big picture. Like kind of where do you want to go? What's the market doing right now? Where's the advantage in the market? And then boiling that down into processes that will actually get you there. So it is just a really good reminder how in all facets of your life, if you are just focused on the day-to-day actions, your life is just going to kind of happen to you. You do have to take that time to kind of think about the market as a whole, your life as a whole. Where do you want to be? Where's the market going? And what opportunities there are in all those areas, and then systematically go after those. So, yeah, it was a really good conversation, and it was a bit of a longer one. So I'm going to keep this intro a little bit shorter. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Here's Joshua Smith. Welcome back to the REI Agent. I have the honor and privilege of talking to Joshua Smith today. Joshua, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. Truly honored to be here with you and excited for this.
Hey, it's a lot of fun to talk to you. I've listened to you. I've listened to many podcasts of yours in the past. So yeah, it's a fun full circle thing. I think there was a local agent actually that he wasn't really in my market, but he sold a couple houses in my market that you had on as a guest, which I thought it was kind of fun as well. I think it's Zavon. Oh
yeah.
I'm out of Virginia, so if that puts any context into where we're talking from, but Joshua, tell us a little bit about kind of your journey in real estate, what got you started, and then maybe how you got into podcasting as well.
Yeah, dude. So jumped in 20 years ago, actually 20 years ago this month, man. So May of 2005, and college dropout, just looking for a way to make money, dude, that didn't require a college degree, getting into massive debt, and looking for an industry where, the reason why I kind of left college and dropped out of college was, I didn't want to pigeonhole myself into something that I didn't have endless amounts of opportunity. I wanted to have something where I'm always in control of my own fate. Control is something that's important to me. Some people value it, some don't. For me, it's something that's really important. So 2005, Phoenix, Arizona. I just moved from Michigan to Phoenix.
Okay.
And I was actually working in the health club business at the time, but same thing there, dude. I love selling memberships, all of that. I love that business, but it's like every time we start making good money, they change our comp structure. So I'm looking for a different vehicle. 2005, dude, real estate market's just banging, man. The perception to everybody was, these realtors are just crushing it, killing it.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I'll go jump into real estate, 2-week crash course, whatever. And, two things there, man, is number one, I had the passion, the work ethic, like that desire to go out there and succeed. Number two, like I knew I was 23 years old, never been an entrepreneur before. I knew I needed the right mentor. So went out there, found an amazing mentor, and they just hit the ground running, dude. So, 40 deals my first year, 103 the second, then that scale up to a few hundred after that, just over 320 deals the third year. So that led me into, really scaling and building my real estate team.
Wow. Yeah.
And 20 years later, man, been in several different facets, from teams to franchising to, other aspects of it. But it's been an amazing, I say amazing, goods, bads, ugly, everything in between, but wouldn't trade it for the world, man.
Thinking about 320 deals gives me a massive headache a year.
Yeah. And it's been, between just myself, not just myself, but myself and my team, not counting the brokerage side, I've done over 7,000 transactions now. So,
Wow.
It's been a lot of volume.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, I mean, you must be a master at systems and getting kind of your processes down so that you can effectively, how early were you delegating with doing that many numbers so fast?
Yeah. So, okay. 48, my first year. Now you got to remember, this was also 2005. So capacities might be a little bit different today, but 2005, dude, there was no smartphones. Like, we didn't have scanners. Like, everything was still fax, there was no DocuSign. There was no,
right.
So things maybe took a little bit longer, maybe not. I don't know. But for me, it was 48, and I wanted to double going in the next year, but I was like, dude, I'm already working like 4 a.m. to midnight. Like, I'm like, there's not enough hours in a day to do this. So, at that point in time, I hired my first assistant, 40-hour week assistant that was able to take all the essential non-money making activities off my plate so I could allocate all my time onto making money. Then that led me to 103 deals. Then from there, now I'm at a point in time where, when new buyer or sellers wanted to, set up a time to meet with me, I'm 2 to 3 weeks booked out. People might wait 2 to 3 days. They're not waiting 2 to 3 weeks. So I realized, I'm pissing away money. Again, I hit another glass ceiling capacity. So then I started bringing on agents. So it only took a year to, leverage from an admin's aspect, 2 years to start leveraging on the agent aspect.
And what was that? What agent did you bring in? Did you have them specific roles with like a buyer specialist showing?
Yeah, that was, because back then, dude, again, this was like, teams weren't really a thing, like they are today. Like, we didn't really know. It's kind of, jumping off the cliff and building the parachute on the way down. Now, luckily, my dad owned and operated gyms for 30 years. So I grew up in that industry, and I built sales teams in gyms, and I've, all the way from, doing pre-sales to starting a new facility and building the staff up. So I had experience with building teams. So I was just like, hey, let's just replicate. Sales is sales, business is business. Let me just replicate what I did over here. So I'm like, okay, in the gym business, you always hire the admin first so we can focus more on sales. Then you start, slowly adding salespeople, build the sales teams. Then you get out of sales, become the sales manager, right? And then just build the way up. So I did it the same way. So it really started off with me with just overflow. I had so much overflow, and most of my business was buy side at that time still.
Sure.
So now I've never been one that was like, oh, do my agents have to just buy side versus sell side? It just happened to be that pretty much everything I had for them was on the buy side, right? So, but just on the, it was just 50-50 split, but dude, I was providing like 90% of their business where it's just like, hey, dude, here's somebody needs a house. Go find them a house. Yeah.
So that's the next question I have for you. I mean, where were you drumming up that much business that fast?
Dude, I'm a workhorse, so I started off doing like, a minimum 5, upwards of, 7+ open houses a week, and so started with that, then quickly got to a point where I was like, all right, man, I need open houses. I need storefronts, but I'm spending 10 hours a week prospecting for other agents to beg them to do their open houses. So I realized that was a vulnerability. So I started going after expireds. Then very quickly, I realized, man, I hate cold calling. Like, I know it's effective. I'm good at it. Yeah. I get it. It works, but I just hate it. So then I had to start coming up with inbound, expired, and other inbound style seller campaigns, but targeted, not just doing like geo farming, but just like very targeted direct campaigns, so really in the first couple of years, because I just moved from Michigan to Arizona, so I didn't have a sphere. I didn't really know anybody, so just started building so heavily from, open houses plus with our targeted mailer campaigns of stacking listings. And then back then too, you don't get this so much today, but it's like you get a listing, man, like you get sign calls like crazy, open house opportunities like, right? It was a different time, and different in good ways and different in bad ways too. But that was it, man. I up until, so it was really just expireds, cancels, withdrawals, and open houses until the great financial crisis. Jumping in 2005, and then that hits, right? And luckily, dude, just doing my expires, cancel, withdrawals, because I treat them all as like the same niche, right?
Yeah.
That then accidentally led into me doing a bunch of short sales. You know, like I remember having my first short sale, right? So I go on, ask, having a conversation with the seller, everything's good to go, get their home listed, like a week before closing, the title company calls me and they're like, well, when's the seller planning on bringing in their funds? I'm like, what are you talking about? They should be like netting like 18 grand here. Like, what do you mean funds? Like, oh, they have this line of credit on the property. I'm like, dude, that was never disclosed. Right? Like, had no idea. But so then I reach out to them like, oh yeah, we did take out a line of credit, but we didn't know that was attached to the house. Because they're like, we use that to like buy cars and RVs and shit. Right? So and now again, remember, like I'm like 24, 25 at this point.
Okay.
Like now, maybe I would have caught it, would have known better, would have, paid attention to the prelim, but I didn't know what I was doing at this point, but it's how I stumbled across my first short sale. So then I was like, okay, what's our option? Well, we can go out there and try to negotiate a short sale, get a short payoff for that. But then it came to, okay, every reason things were expiring was because they didn't have enough equity because the market, it's kind of like what we're starting to see again here. In my market and a lot of other markets as well is, feeling like 2007 all over again, possibly even worse. Right. So then that led into short sales, so then I'm like, hey man, and I just start, I've always been a big believer in, and my philosophy is always, okay, there's no such thing as a good market or bad market. The market's always good for somebody. It's our job as professionals to identify whom the market is good for, pivot, shift, and adapt accordingly to whom the market's good for. And I don't care whether you're representing on the buy side or if you're looking to go out there and invest yourself, it's all the same game, right? So then from there, I'm just, paying attention to, okay, like we're doing a lot of short sales, seeing those really pick up. Well, now I see this thing called REO starting to pick up. Well, what the hell's REO? Right? So you're figuring that out, and we pivot in that, and next thing you know, we're representing like 35 different banks, asset management firms, outsourcers. So when you talk about systems and processes, like, dude, my first few years, 2005 till about 2008, I was just a workhorse, dude. I didn't have systems and processes. It was just, let's just go out there and freaking grind. But then when you start getting with all these banks, and even let's just say, okay, like Fannie Mae Direct, right? Well, then Fannie Mae Direct, maybe I'm working with 6 different asset managers. So we got Fannie Mae Direct's kind of playbook of how they want things done. But then each asset manager has their own operation style. So, so then next, we're working with these, 30 plus outsourcers, asset management firms, carrying 400, upwards of 400 assets anytime. Like I had to get damn good and learn processes and systems very quickly to be able to manage that. Yeah. So, now it's kind of what I'm known for is systems, processes, scalability, and I've learned to love it, but it wasn't like an innate thing. It happened out of necessity because it's the only way. Because like, dude, if you didn't, I remember one year it was Christmas Eve when we were kind of new into this, and Fannie Mae dropped 17 new assignments to me on Christmas Eve. So I had to go to my whole team. I'm like, hey guys, like my goal is to get you all home by Christmas, but like we're probably gonna all work till like 1, 2 in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, right. Because like they don't with task assignments. It's like the task assignment's the task assignment. There is no, oh, it's Christmas Day, we'll give you an extra day. And if you don't hit their KPIs, like you're fired, you're done. So you had to really very quickly learn systems, processes, scale. Because then also on those now we're talking, this $300,000 property is now worth $85,000. Yeah, right. And the banks are expecting you to take lesser commission because they're giving you volume. So if you didn't figure out the volume game and how to manage this at volume, like very difficult to make it in that arena. Yeah.
I mean, so how long were things taking to sell at that point when you were selling the REOs and the short sales? I mean, they were average, couple months?
Yeah, dude. I mean, it got to a point where we had about 15 months of inventory, So, a year plus. Now, the nice thing about the disposition side and we do a lot now with, we represent a lot of big hedge funds and private equity firms and, have now for the last, it's been a big part of my business for over a decade now. But so the nice thing about, this is like, they need to unload these, dude.
Yeah.
So versus a typical seller that won't price right. Yeah. Again, average, got to a point where inventory due was 15 months, whereas it means that the average home was taken a year plus to go out there and sell, but with, pre-foreclosures, time is of the essence. So we'd have to get them, so most of those we'd have under contract within a week or two. The banks, they would kind of have their, want to start a little bit high, but they needed to, because all the hold costs were just astronomical for them. They needed to unload these. Just like when I'm working with Blackstone and their, with their dispositions team, it's like, hey, we got to unload these so they can't hold on to them for a year. Like they're underperforming assets. Like we got to unload them fast. Right. So it was a little bit different than maybe a traditional realtor at those times for me.
Sure. Just out of curiosity, I mean, one thing you mentioned that you think that, things could be even worse than coming up. If you are a person that's also interested in investing in real estate and you are a realtor that has access to these banks or sets up systems or looking to get into that, is there any kind of conflict of interest or any kind of no-nos with wanting to buy one of those assets that comes up as an REO?
No, it's just like, look, I'm living in a Fannie Mae house that I bought from Fannie Mae. It just, there was restrictions where if I was a listing agent, I couldn't acquire it. So it was like, this listing comes up, I could just give it to another agent have them reassigned to another agent, so, cause I like to, buy when things are at the bottom and then,
Yeah.
So then, so, and every bank's or every institution's going to be like, if I'm working for a private equity firm, they don't really give a shit as long as their number's their number. Now, some of these like government sponsored entities, the GSEs, they might have some more red tape.
Well, and sometimes they want to have it be like, they want to have 2 weeks of time for a primary resident to buy that kind of thing. Right.
Yeah.
So I got my license in 2014 to give you perspective. So I was kind of probably at honestly, I feel like it was like the perfect time to learn in a more balanced market that was kind of starting to pick up and then have experience by the time things really were rolling. I'm curious what indications you see in your market that make you believe it is possibly going to be worse or a similar kind of crisis.
Yeah, look, so I was just speaking on stage about this yesterday. There was a few hundred agents here in Phoenix that was at an event for, and a couple things to understand. Number one, real estate's very hyper local. So even like the GFC, like I have friends in Alabama that, run large real estate companies that are like, hey, our market went down 2%. Where in my market, I had $150,000 acre parcel of land that now we're selling for $5,000. You had homes that were $600,000 now that we're selling for $185,000, right? So our market got demolished. When I say our market, Phoenix, Arizona.
That was
that was during the GFC.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So house that was like prime example, like maybe it was 550, 575, peak 2025 or 2005, the bottom, 180, 175, and then it took from 2005 peak, 2012 was the bottom, back to 2019 though, to just get back to 2005 pricing.
Okay.
So if you look at the historic average, usually for down cycles, it's about a 10-year recovery period, right? From, again, peak to valley to correction. That one was a little bit longer, but that was, again, not all markets. Like every market can be different, dude, right? So there is no like nationwide, this is exactly what's going to happen. But then from there, like I was telling everybody yesterday, I'm like, look, the best way I found to plan for business and just protect yourself is hopefully the best plan for the worst. I'm like, dude, I don't have a crystal ball. I have no idea what the hell's going to happen, but I am prepping and planning for this to be worse than the great financial crisis and to be worse than the Great Depression. Because if we look again, I don't know what's going to happen with who knows. There's so much manipulation. I mean, if you look, we should be in an 18-year-long depression right now. Like if you remove away all the deficit spending and just the manipulation of the markets and really just the freaking Federal Reserve and the printing press and then being able to, like if you remove, like we would be, if you look at year over year from GDP growth outside of manipulation, we'd be in like an 18-year-long depression right now. Like, I don't think that anything was corrected in the great financial crisis. I think they've just been plugging holes. And now when you look at the global debt market, when you look at, corporate debt, government debt, consumer debt, like, dude, I don't know if there's any way out of this. Yeah. Right. Like, who knows what's going to happen? Global default, debt jubilee, who the hell knows? Right. But what I do know here for the US is if you go to Federal Reserve, St. Louis, which is the Department of Federal Reserve that's responsible for tracking what's going on with the consumer. And then just go Google, and you must watch what it says, Federal Reserve St. Louis consumer debt versus savings chart. No point in time in recorded history have we seen, debt to savings, like the gap be this wide or accelerate at this pace. Like the average person is way worse off than they were before the great financial crisis and way worse off than they were before the Great Depression. So again, I don't know. There's so much dude, who knows, man? The Federal Reserve might step in and buy $90 billion a month of mortgage-backed securities again and manipulate the market and artificially prop it up. But if they let the market do what the markets are going to do, this thing is going to get fucking ugly, dude. Right? Now that's going to, like Arizona, Florida, Texas, parts of Nevada, Atlanta. There's definitely areas that are going to get ripped apart much harder than, typically the markets that went up the fastest go down the fastest. And then there's also a direct correlation to based on, investor acquisitions versus, because investors will just start unloading. Like we're already seeing in our market, dude. I went for 2012 to 2022 with investor clients, acquiring 20 plus properties every single month, like clockwork. These are big institutions that we're representing, right? Then, cost of capital goes up. They're stopping now to now we're just unloading and just, and I always look at watch what smart money's doing. Watch what, Blackstone is doing. Watch what Warren Buffett's doing. Watch what are they doing right now with their money? Yeah. Right. It's a pretty good tell of, because they're going to be protected. They're going to get the hell out before it's Joe Schmo. It's us regular, peasants that get caught, dude, right? Yeah.
So be cash heavy.
And I'm not going to tell anybody, I'm just walking through what I see, what I pay attention to, with that. And then I'm not personally not going to say anywhere I wouldn't, but definitely not in my market. Am I going to be a buyer in this market? But what I do tell, because I still have a lot of, clients that want to do it, even though I'll tell them hey, dude, why don't you just go put that in a T-bill for some time, guarantee you 5% interest, right? 5% return for some time until, because in my market, again, every market's doing different things, but we got prices coming down at a very fast rate. We got cap rate compressions happening for the first time in multiple decades. You got tenant evictions skyrocketing. Then we got hold costs going up, taxes, insurance, HOAs, cost of maintenance. I'm like, dude, it makes zero sense. There's too many vulnerabilities to me. It makes zero sense, to at least go out there and buy and hold, unless you get an absolute steal. But then from there, even when we're talking with people that want to flip or, get in the flipping game, I'm like, look, dude, again, hope for the best, plan for the worst. Okay, worst case scenario, if you cannot get this thing moved, can you live with it? Right? Can we get somebody in there, at least cash flow a little bit or break it? Can you live with worst case scenario? And if you can't, then don't freaking do it right now, dude. Because I've seen it too many times where people get stuck. They got, I was just having a dinner the other night with a friend of mine that, is a not a massive investor, but a pretty avid investor, right? And he recently just got stuck in this recent downturn with 22 projects going on at once. And lost. I mean, we're talking an 8-figure loss of everything.
Wow.
So
I've definitely heard a lot of horror stories or veterans or people that went through the last downturn holding a property that. And
I'm not talking last downturn. I'm talking we're talking 2022 and going into 2023 got hit.
Yeah, I hear you. We're not. Our market's not there for sure. We've still seen increase in prices, and we still have. It's not as much of a seller market, but it is still somewhat. I expect most of my listings to go under contract in 3 days, usually a little bit over asking price. It had one go crazy over asking price. 20%.
You're like Northern Virginia?
Not quite. We're like a tertiary market underneath. So 2 hours south of DC, which the proximity to DC helps some of our prices and stuff. But we have a university town that kind of keeps the economy rolling. But yeah, I'm just saying it could definitely catch up here too as well. It's just definitely different from what you're describing.
Well, and then we see even pockets within the pockets, right? So it's okay, what can be happening here in Maricopa County in Phoenix Metro obviously can be different than, and not even Virginia. Virginia Beach can be totally different than what you're seeing, right? But then from there, it's hey, man, we have a couple pockets within Phoenix Metro, not a lot, but about 5% of the markets out there that are still crazy, that are hot as hell, man. But it's okay, 95% is melting down. We got many zip codes. When I say melting down, we got many zip codes that are already technically in a real estate market crash. Because a crash is just 20% beyond the peak, right? So if we look at 2022 when we peaked to now, we're already beyond 20% correction, which would technically be a crash. What's weird about this time too, dude, is like all the pockets that I'm seeing, not just in our market, but even throughout the countries that are staying super strong is the luxury market, where luxury is always kind of, if you look at the last year, 100 years of real estate, like luxury's kind of led this slowdown. But I think that, and again, I'm just talking out of my ass, like I don't know, but my guesstimate on this is because we are going through and continuing to go through right now, or have been for the last 3-4 years now, and continuing to go through this, the biggest transference of wealth in history. I mean, so we're seeing the middle class just be eliminated. Yeah. Right. And there's no need for it. There's no, the Industrial Revolution is done. We'll see if it comes, but there's like, so it's the haves and have nots, where it's like people are getting poor, people getting richer. Yeah. Right. So like if you go to my market, like Queen Creek, Paradise Valley, which is the most fifth expensive zip codes in the United States, like those pockets are freaking staying, multiple offers staying super strong, where it's more like the middle class markets that are just getting destroyed.
Are they often cash? I would assume they're at least heavily cash. Like, so the interest rates aren't applying as much to them. Do you think that's part of it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's part of it. Plus they're just, again, when you're seeing the wealth transfer, dude, it's just people are making more money or they're making less, and it's people I talk to too, friends, whatever. It's like, dude, they're either financially doing the best they've ever in their life, or they're getting ripped apart in a way that they never have. Now, that's like 1% versus 99%. 99% of the human beings out there it's the most unaffordable time to be alive and as a U.S. citizen in recorded history. We've never had a point in time where it's been more expensive to just operate and live life than what we're seeing now at any point in time and since 1776, right? And then even when you look at real estate, like even in the early 80s when interest rates were 20%, close to 20%, it still was more affordable to acquire real estate then than it is now.
Yeah, that's one thing that people often will bring up, like, oh, the interest rates have been higher than this before, but like, but the affordability of the house, like the purchase price was at a price where like the payments were more affordable. I know that's kind of a silly point, or a misleading point maybe. Well, I guess with all that said, I mean, you're talking about, hoping for the best, preparing for the worst. How do you prepare for this possible downturn? What steps, what actions, where should you focus your future, growth to be prepared for this kind of possible downturn?
I mean, get lean. You want to be able to move fast. Right? So, like great Warren Buffett says, when the tide goes out, you see skinny dipping. Like, make sure you don't get caught skinny dipping. So you want to be fluent, man. You want to be able to scale, move fast, right? You want to be the speedboat, not the Titanic, which I know is harder, for depending on the level that we're at in this business, but do your best with it. Then from there, man, just keep the eye on the ball, man. Make sure you're tracking everything. Keep your eye on the ball so that way you can shift and pivot. So example with this, people were coming to me in 2008 and they're like, oh man, I'm having to get out of the business. Nobody saw this coming. And I was like, how did you not see this coming? Like, I'm not going to lie that I didn't know the severity of it.
Right.
But I'm like, and I didn't realize this at the time, but I had a great mentor that taught me how to read and track markets. So it's like every single month I'm tracking, where inventory, greater growth of inventory. I'm like, dude, we had 31 months of straight inventory. It was a slow progression, month over month incline, but like you'd had to totally have your head buried in the sand and not know that we weren't transitioning into to a heavy buyer's market. Right. Now, maybe you wouldn't expect Lehman's Brothers and Bear Stearns to collapse and for it to go to the free fall that it did, but I was like, hey man, before that already happened, I was already in with 30 banks and short set, like, because we're paying attention. So make sure that you're paying attention to the market. Why? Again, because it doesn't matter. There's no such thing as a good market or a bad market. The market is always good for somebody. I always look at real estate is we got like a science experiment. So if you look at the control is a piece of real estate. That is my job, is to move that piece of real estate. Again, whether I'm helping a client or if I'm acquiring it, my job is to know the real estate, to move that, like to know the product and be able to move the product. The variable that will change throughout, all of our lifetimes, our careers, is who's buying it, who's selling it, why they're buying it, why they're selling it, where they're coming from, where they're going. So as long as I'm always paying attention to that and I'm able to pivot, shift, and adapt accordingly based on my focus, my prospecting, my marketing. So like, here's an example, dude, like with my market, We went from being the 5th most affordable metro in the United States to being the top 5 least affordable. So a home that's maybe 800 today, 7 years ago was 300. So locals, like household incomes haven't went up barely at all. So like locals like can't afford it. They're like, screw this. So I'm like, okay, well, who's our market good for? So I know the top 10 states. I know the metros within those states. And then within those, then I know the pockets where, hey, our market is a win for. So like let's just say I'm running ads, which I do a ton of, like Facebook ads to San Francisco Bay Area. So they're living in a 1,300 square foot, 3-bed, 2-bath, 100-year-old house that they no longer feel safe living in their own neighborhood because of all the crime and homelessness and whatever. This is their words, not mine. So they're selling that for $1.5 million. They're coming out here buying for $800,000-900,000 what feels to be a mansion, 5,000 square feet, brand new, gated community. Like to them, they're like, holy crap, we cannot believe that this is even a possibility. So this is what we got to always be pivoting. Okay, like who's your market to win? It's always a win for somebody. It's always good for somebody. So making sure that you're just being fluid. Those that get ran over, those that just stay in the same place, man. Like you gotta move, you gotta pivot.
Yeah, that is definitely true about this industry, is that things are rarely the same, and you have to just kind of keep your head on a swivel and keep an eye on where things are going and try to keep up. That's fascinating. I've actually considered doing similar kind of ads to Northern Virginia, because I think a lot of people have been dreaming of living in the Valley, in a bigger metro area, simpler country kind of life, and there's been a lot of job cuts, and it might be the time that people might want to be transitioning to a more simple life. But yeah, that's awesome.
And it starts with awareness, right? If they don't have awareness that you exist, that you're an option, they're not going to go there. Yeah, right. So. Right. We got to make sure we have that right target approach, and just, again, always looking at, like I said, 2000. So, okay, if we look at the journey, right, 2005 to 2008, 2007, 2008 was heavy traditional buyers, expires, and that pivoted very quickly into, short sales REO. Well, then 2011, short sales REO starts, slowing down. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm always still doing some traditional business too. It's just, short sales and REO might have been 75, 80% of it. Still, like, there's no point in time where you're banning all of it. Well, then all of a sudden we start seeing short sell and REO, like, it's starting to dry up a little bit. Okay, well, again, who's buying? Who's selling? Where's the market going? So now I start seeing all these hedge funds, Invitation Homes, coming in and buying. Next thing I know, I'm seeing this company called I never heard of them. Invitation Homes buying 500 units a month in my market. Yeah, right. I'm like, okay, like, how do I get in with them? Yeah, right. Now you got to figure that out, right? They got to go in and so, okay, how do I get in with Invitation Homes? Next, we're doing 60, 70 units a month with them, so then, okay, like traditional hasn't picked up yet. Short sale and REO are coming down. Well, institutional investors were going up and up and up. Right. Well, that lasted for so long. Then that started coming down. REO and short sales was good, still going down, but then traditional started picking up, and then, dude, like I said, 2012 through 2022, we're doing 20 plus acquisitions a month through Blackstone. Well, 2022, when the Federal Reserve goes from quantitative easing to quantitative tightening, because a lot of people think that these big institutions pay cash for everything. They don't. They'll have a direct line with the Fed or direct line with whomever, Goldman Sachs, but then that is based on the overnight, Fed, overnight rate. So when they go from like 0.5% to 5%, and they're buying these at 5% cap rates, like, and it's a floating rate pretty much, dude, they're done. Yeah. So we went from overnight, 200 plus transactions on an annual basis, to like, hey, we're just done. We're stopped. Now, luckily I've been through this enough times and not put all my eggs in one basket. So we're able to be fine. We're still able to, go out there and move, or, 700 homes a year, and adapt, but it's like, you always got to be adapting. So then we started adapting. Okay, well, big money's stopping at acquiring. How are local investors doing? Because for me, for the longest time, I didn't want to focus on like the onesies and twosies with the investors, right? Sure. But then we started assessing, okay, what's going on here? So then now for the last 2-3 years, man, we've just been stacking up listings on the acquisition side or the disposition side, because investors are just getting crushed out here. So this is where you just always got to pay attention to, again, like, what's going on in the market and where's the opportunity at? Because my job is to know the product and move the product. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Then from there, all the other crap's always going to be changing.
And when you're looking at these types of investment buyer sellers, was that any multifamily as well, or is that primarily like single family condo, townhouse kind of thing?
Yeah, for me, for us, for our market, I have a lot of, clients of mine, agent partners, I should say, of mine that are in areas where multifamily is very popular.
Yeah.
Here in my market, dude, it's not that it's not, but no, I mean, we're pretty
Same
much
here.
all single family.
Yeah, same here. But yeah, I know that a lot of people got caught like holding bridge loans and not projecting the rates to go the way they did from when they, underwrote the deal for the beginning. So that's been a bloodbath too for a lot of places. Not that everybody's, there's definitely people that are still doing well. I think also, when you're looking at investing and putting your money into different things, keeping mind of what could happen could also, help determine what kind of asset class you might be looking at. For example, if you wanted to, if numbers still looked pretty good without aggressive projections on a mobile home park, for example, that might be more recession proof than buying something, like a, I don't know, more luxurious townhouse or, I don't know. It's all, it definitely, that's going to be, there might be more pressure or more demand coming to those kind of places, the cheaper the rent, et cetera, than, something that might be a higher rent in the investment side. But yeah, I'm curious if, let me ask you quick. You're obviously a very driven person and do crazy things. You've been doing this podcast. You've been selling all these houses. How do you keep your mind right? How do you take care of yourself? I know you still exercise. What all do you do?
Yeah, dude. So I'll do my best to answer this, because when people say to keep your mind right, I don't know if there is if there's I've been thinking about this a lot, like just over the years of like, all right, man, or is it that we're all individually super messed up? Or is it that, hey, man, there's really nothing messed up with us. We're just trying to fit into this messed up fucking world. Yeah, right. So then we have all this, I don't know. And I'm not going to pretend, I've got my issues. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, health and fitness is a big aspect of my life. I allowed myself to become extremely depressed, where just daily consumption of my thoughts was just around committing suicide. And that all led to me getting morbidly obese. Next thing you know, I'm 300 pounds, close to 300 pounds. And when I was trying to overcome, the depression, I was like, okay, well, what's the opposite of depression? Okay, we got fulfillment. Then I'm sitting there thinking, okay, like what would make me fulfilled? Like what would make me happy? I'm like, I don't really know. But then I was like, okay, there's two areas in my life that I'm pretty sure that if I could get these dialed in, that put me on the right path. Number one, that was, I was a college dropout, never made more than $10 an hour, sick and tired of being broke. Number two, so I was like, okay, if I could figure out how to start making some more money. Number two, if I can get my health dialed in and not be absolutely ashamed of myself every time I got to look in the fucking mirror, right. And actually have energy. And so I just went to work on those two things. That led me into sales, and it led me, into real estate. And, led me onto my, 100+ pound weight loss journey. And,
yeah,
so, and you got to, you lose it and you got to keep it off. And, and part of the health and fitness stuff is probably because, I grew up as the chubby fat kid, man. I had two older brothers that were very athletic, very in good shape, and they beat the living shit out of me and bullied the crap out of me. Plus, kids are mean, dude. So I was, bullied, always, I don't want to say bullied outside my brothers, but I was, my buddies always made jokes, right?
Sure.
So now I'm like at a point in life where like, dude, if I can't see visible abs, like I feel like shit about myself. And I don't know if it's there's probably some issues there, but I'm like, hey, why fix them, right? It forces me to eat super clean, forces me to work out like a beast, like forces me into having healthy habits. If I were to sit down and talk with a therapist, they'd probably be like, you're broken in so many ways. But I'm like, okay, fix me in the ways that don't serve me, but then let me stay broken in the ways that serve me is the way I look at this. So, I'm very diligent with health and fitness, when COVID hit, man, I was always a gym rat before that, but when COVID hit, no gym. So I set up a home gym, which now I love. So I'm able to get up early, work out, eat the same 5 meals pretty much every day. I'm very strict with my diet, and not just from an aesthetic standpoint, but I've also found okay, what foods give me good energy, what foods make me lethargic or put me to sleep. So I know, just, I want to optimize for output and not just for business, but for, I want to have energy when I'm not doing business too. Right. So that's kind of workout diet. And then I don't know, can't remember what the original question is. So,
well, I mean, yeah, I mean, you're answering it. I mean, I think like when people ask me the same kind of question, like kind of how I keep myself going, how do I keep my mind right? How do I, blah, blah, blah. I often turn to like, well, I go to the gym, and there's definitely times that, I don't want to talk to a certain client. I don't want to respond to a message until I've gone, because I'm like, this is just not going to, I need to go there, but I need to get my mental, my stress out. I need to get a more clear headed. And once I'm done with the gym, I'm going to be able to respond more diplomatically the way I hoped I would have, that kind of thing. So it's, that's a huge part for me as well. At what point in this, so you kind of started your business and fitness kind of journey at the same time. Did you also, when did you said you're married now, right? You have a family. When did that start for you?
So high school sweethearts. So we met 16, got, married in 2005, serving kids pretty much, a few years after that. So I had our first child in 2008. So we've been together for, pretty much our whole lives, dude. Right.
You just started everything 2005.
Yeah. But we met, 16. So I don't know what that was, 1998, is when we met, so we graduated in 2000. So I'm at 40, we're both 43 now. So,
I mean, kudos for you, because getting through all that stress, building that much of a business, able to still maintain the exercise and diet routines. It's not easy with kids.
None of it is, dude. None of it's easy. It's all hard, but I look at this of, okay, success, it takes massive amounts of pain to create success, but also struggle creates massive amounts of pain. Like no matter what, like people are just so delusional anymore and it's just so addicted to comfort, and they just, there's this entitlement issue going on, and even if you start, like if you go, like I love reading like Friedrich Nietzsche, and, if you read his, works back in the 1800s, him talking about this, and, but there's just, people are just so damn entitled, think that life should be easy, life should be comfortable, life should be good. I'm like, dude, like, look, I've kind of, I've lived the different worlds, man, like been broke as it gets. And then I've had some, okay money, not, Elon Musk money, but okay money. Right. I've been, morbidly obese, massively out of shape, to pretty damn good shape. I've competed in bodybuilding, stepped on stage. Like I've been in pretty damn good shape. Now both had different pains in different ways, but both came with immense pain. So then it's like, dude, just pick your fucking pain, but don't be delusional thinking that either path is going to be easy, because there is no such thing as easy. But you got to just, what is the pain that I want to go out there and experience? And it's like when people ask, like, what do you do to keep your mind good? I'm like, dude, nothing. Right. Like, I don't think there is such a thing as a good mind. People are like, I'm like, dude, I have days where I wake up where I'm motivated, I'm ready to go. I have more days where I'm fucking pissed off. I want to stay sleeping. I'm demotivated. I'm depressed. I don't want to do any of this. I'm like, it's like when people come to me like, oh, I ask them like, what's their goal? I just want to be happy. I'm like, okay, I get where you're coming from that, but that's a terrible goal. There's 8 different emotions. As an emotionally regulated, healthy human being, you're going to experience happiness about 1/8 of the time. And happiness only exists because you also experience sadness. Yeah, right. So you're probably going to be experience happiness in 1/8 of the time. So what are you going to do the other 7/8 of the time? Right. So I would just look at it like that. Dude, like my mind goes to dark places, all the time, whatever, but I still got to perform. Whether I want to or not. It's like, here's where I'm at. Here's where I want to go. Here's the shit I got to get done. Okay, regardless of whether I'm not, whatever. It's just, let's get up and get shit done that we need to get done and execute what we got to execute. And what I found is that's what creates true fulfillment is progress. It's not happiness that creates fulfillment. It's progress, man.
That's what I was going to say. It's kind of this interesting, people imagine success like when you've made it, that you're sitting on a beach drinking cocktails doing nothing, but when in reality, like that's not gonna keep you fulfilled. That might be fun for a day or so, but like after that, like getting out there and when you get done with a hard workout, you feel great. You feel like you've achieved something. You've kept a promise to yourself. After you have successfully built a business or successfully close a deal or whatever it is, like that there was struggle there, and that will make you feel fulfilled. And to your point, I think that oftentimes people actually need to self-impose hardship on themselves to be able to feel good. And that's done through exercise. That's done through maybe cold plunges. I mean, all that kind of stuff can self-impose pain, discomfort, whatever that you have to push through. And when you do, then you feel good. And it's a thing that people often don't get because they want to go from their air-conditioned house to their air-conditioned car and drive to the air-conditioned office and, kind of never actually impose hardship. When we were evolutionarily, we were, probably having to go for periods of time without food, so there's all these things about fasting that's supposed to be good for you. And we had to exert energy to be able to, survive, to hunt, whatever. And I think that, we are in a society of abundance where we have everything given to us. And if we don't do those things to ourselves, we just don't have that balanced life or more balanced life that we want.
Yeah, it is interesting, man. It's like, okay, for most of human civilization, like the biggest threat was starvation.
Yeah.
Now we're at a period of time for the first time ever in human civilization where, okay, the biggest threat is too much damn food. Like nobody's starving anymore. It's unhealthy levels of too much adipose tissue. That's what's killing people. Where it used to be starvation, now it's like there's such an abundance. But look, like you said, like we're wired to the wiring's deep to live this way. Well, now we're living a different way, and we're all having to adjust to it.
Yeah, and the whole food industry is designed around taking advantage of our natural tendencies to want to get that fatty food, to want to get that stuff that we needed when we were in a starvation mode, but we're really not anymore. So it's just good to be aware of those things and to realize where true fulfillment comes from, like you talked about. So I got to ask if any of these things that we just talked about gave you an idea for a golden nugget that you could share with the audience. It could be a new investor. It could be, a new agent. It could be for, anybody at all, or maybe people that are looking at a possible downturn.
Yeah, I would just say, man, just, the most, I think, at least what I've discovered, like, I don't honestly know shit about shit. So, I don't know if I'm the right guy to listen to or not, but, what I can tell you, what I've learned through my own, personal experiences, there's nothing more powerful than taking the time to get extreme clarity. Get extreme clarity, not just on the immediate. So many people get, hey, man, I'm struggling right now. I want to do this. They get clarity on the immediate, the 12-month goal. I'm talking about the long game. Like, know what you need in the immediate, your 6-month goal, your 12-month goal, but then know, hey, what is that? Like, when I'm 84 years old, sit on my deathbed, replaying the tapes, how do I want that conversation to go? Right? Like reverse engineer this, get that extreme clarity, because the more clarity that you have does two things. Number one, it can allow you to reverse engineer the right blueprints to get from where you're at to where you want to go. It's the only way, right? Because the mistake that I've made so many times now, my 20-year entrepreneur journey is, you start getting 5 years into this thing, to realize that, well, shit, I accidentally built myself into a metaphorical prison, not the metaphorical empire. Or like the other analogy here, people like, you're going to go climb this mountain. Yeah, you get to the top, and then you realize, fuck, I climbed the wrong damn mountain. Right? So when you have clarity, it allows you to know, okay, what is the exact mountain that you want to go out there and whatever it may be, health and fitness. Like, you were talking about intermittent fasting. Okay, well, is intermittent fasting the right protocol for you? The right system for you? I don't know. It depends on what your goals are, what you want, we start breaking those down, right? There's no right way for everybody's, but when here's where I'm at, here's where I want to go. Now, again, it allows you to reverse architecture of the game plans. Yeah. So it allows you to do that. But then number two, it also, I found when you have extreme clarity, there's no such thing as burnout. Because now, you put in the hard work day by day, but you're seeing day by day progress, brick by brick progress. And burnout only takes place and exists when you are executing, at a high level and you're not seeing any progress or return. That's when burnout kicks in. So that's the biggest nugget that I have, man, is get extreme clarity on what is that you want. And then, dude, go after it, man. Like, I get people all the time that are like, oh, but that's going to take, 5 years or 10 years. Like, I just got involved in this new venture. That's probably going to take me 10 years to get to where I truly want to be at with this venture. I'll tell people that, I'm like, well, man, that's 10 years. I'm like, dude, the 10 years is going to pass anyway. Right. What the fuck am I going to be doing in my life? Like, it's going to pass anyway. So you might as well, don't worry about the time, be intentional with the time that you have, but it's like, time's going to pass anyway. So you might as well go after it and build the life that you truly want.
No, 100%. I think I say this a lot too, that, just in life, if you're not living intentionally, life is just going to happen to you. You're going to be going along. It's like being a ship in a harbor without a rudder. And it's just, you're getting blown around with everything. So yeah, I love that. That's so important. And what you said about it giving you, like, avoiding burnout by having extreme clarity, that's 100% true. I don't think I've ever really thought about that way. Like that, I definitely will go through spurts up and down in my sales, and I think a lot of it has to do with my burnout, my level of motivation. But here recently, I definitely put out like a 5-year plan, all that kind of stuff, and broke it down into smaller goals, and just fired up like I haven't been in a long time. So it's a really good point. That brings me to my next question, and that is, if you have a book that you think is fundamental, everybody should read, or maybe one that you're just currently really enjoying.
No, I don't. And I know everybody's about books, and I am too, but I've wasted more time reading books than I've gotten out of the books. And it's not because of anything with the book. So the piece of advice that I have there is you gotta get clarity again on, like, what is the book? Because there is no, like, we all have something different, so I've come up with over the years of, what I call my mastery framework, right? So whether it be going after books or podcasts or what, because dude, this stuff becomes just mental masturbation. Like, it becomes no different, better time you spent than binging Netflix. Right. Then from there, it's okay. I always identify, okay, what is the one current biggest obstacle that I am experiencing, that I'm facing, business, life, whatever, that if I overcome this, if I get this dialed in, it will take my life or my business to the next level. Let me identify that one thing, right? Then from there, now I know the thing that I need to focus on. Now I know where to allocate I'm going to allocate all my self-development time and energy to solving that problem. Then from there, now I start asking myself, what's the best way to solve it? Okay. Sometimes it's found in a book. Sometimes maybe it's a conversation, just reach out to, buddy of mine like yourself. Hey man, I need this. Like, if I know a buddy that's an expert in that space, sometimes it's a coach, sometimes a consultant, sometimes it's, so there's going to be different ways, but then from there now that I know what it is I need to solve, right, then I'm going to identify, okay, what's the best medium to learn this? And then I'm going to stick with it until I understand it. Right. And by understanding, I mean, okay, you do not you can't truly implement and create success with anything until you understand it to a level where you can essentially teach it to your peers. Yeah. Right. So, most people just, again, and I went through this too, like the whole, like, oh, you got to read 50 books a year. Like, and the next thing I'm looking at my freaking going through my library, I'm looking at these books. I'm like, I know I read it, but I couldn't tell anybody what the hell it was about. Yeah. Right. So
I don't know how many times I've been driving down the road with an Audible, like, at 2x speed. And then I'm like, I have no idea what just, it's been 20 minutes. And I have no idea what just happened.
So like right now I'm reading Eric Worre's GoPro, because this new business I'm involved in, it has an MLM component, right? So I read the book maybe 6 years ago, good sales book. But then I was like, hey man, now that I'm, involved, I've never been involved in MLM. And, so now that I am, or business that has an MLM component, I'm like, okay, he's the best in the game. He coach Ed Milet, he's the dude. Right. So I'm like, now in the last 5 months, I've reread that book. I like to do audiobooks 12 times.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. So as a okay, like now I read a research study from NASA one time that they said the average human brain only retains 10% what they learned the first time around. Mm-hmm. So instead of me just ripping through books, so like I need to find me book, and then I need to read that book at least 10 times. Now I'm dumber than most. Like I'm not an intelligent human being. So the average might take 10 times. It might take me 15 times, right? But I'm going to read it until I freaking milk everything out of it, till I know the concepts that I need to know to go out there and implement, execute, and then make the change I'm looking to make.
That's really good advice. Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. If people are interested in knowing more about you, following you on social media, website, et cetera, I see you have it. For people not watching this, what are those platforms?
Yeah, and just so everybody knows, I have some health and fitness stuff. We do like a round a week with my health and fitness mentor, and interview other like optimal health physicians. And so, a tiny bit of that. Most of my stuff is real estate specific, but even from there, because I know a lot of you are on the investment side, most of my stuff is for like real estate professionals, the real estate agent, team leader, broker owner looking to grow and scale. So you might want to follow my stuff. You may not want to. All my shit is free. It's all like, if you go to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, it's just all Joshua Smith GSD. GSD stand for Get Shit Done. So the podcast is GSD mode, Get Shit Done mode. So you can go to gsdmode.com or just any social media platform, YouTube, wherever, just type in Joshua Smith GSD and you'll find me.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much for your time. This has been an awesome conversation. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been fun, my friend. I really appreciate you having me on, dude. It's always fun flipping the role, man, where I get at, because I'm always in your seat interviewing others. So it's always fun being on the other end, man. It's always an honor. So I appreciate it.
I actually just was on one episode for the first time, because I've been in the process of writing a book. So I'm waiting to get on other people's episodes or other people's podcasts until that comes out. But yeah, it is a very different process being on the other end. But yeah, thanks so much.
Yep, you got it.
Thanks for listening to the REI Agent.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe to catch new shows every week.
Visit reiagent.com for more content.
Until next time, keep building the life you want.
All content in the show is not investment advice or mental health therapy. It is intended for entertainment purposes only.